It says we are live, and I think we are. Yay! Finally finished the first season of 2023. This is welcome to OreAni, the end of 2023 winter season. With me always is our great anime fans, Jessica,
Hello.
Vinny,
Hello, hello.
and Albert.
Hello.
So, like always, we're just gonna talk about the shows that we have seen and kind of voted on what we really want to discuss. But we're gonna probably go in alphabetical order to start with, and just start with something simple like this title. That's one of the few that's on High Dive, which is called Ars no Kyoju, also known as the giant. Or sorry, not the. It's just Giant Beast of Ars. And all I have to say about this show was I had no expectations of it. I kind of didn't really want to watch it.
You like the music.
Yeah, okay, opening and ending songs were wonderful. I like those. Ending song more so. And it did kind of get a little more interesting at the beginning, but after a while it kind of turned into this like it seemed to me almost like a monster of the week where they would travel, end up seeing one of these giant beasts, defeat it, everyone's happy, yay, and they continue on. Now I'll admit that only went on for like probably the first half or so, maybe a little bit longer, but then it's actually started changing and we started getting a little bit more of the past and who everyone really is, and it became a little more enjoyable, I would say, but still, if I had a choice, I think I would have dropped it. But since I was watching it as a group, I ended up watching all
Think of it as a fair trade for subjecting us to watch this girl with unhealthy obsession over dogs.
of it. I think I got the better trade.
Uh-huh.
So, what did you think of it, Vinny? Like,
Um, it was puzzling. Initially, it has that interesting, although nonsensical premise, and I believe Albert mentioned it at the beginning of the season. That's what's with this mechanical aircraft in sort of medieval fantasy-looking land, and that was never really explained. Other than towards the end, it kind of mentioned that it seems to be like relics of the lost civilization from ages ago, which one tribe maintains some of that trace. So that kind of branched up into that. Okay, whatever it's unexplainable, just throw it into the ancient civilization kind of trope there. Um, Overall, it has a problem with the pacing that it spent way too much time at the beginning going through the whole monster of the week trope before starting to develop into the greater plot that controls the old things that's going on. And by the time it came to the realization that, oh, there's a bigger crisis that's looming, that's gonna doom us all, that we must prepare for it, it's already episode 11 by then, and with like 2 more episodes to go. And it was almost hastily wrapped up, non-ending ending. It At the end of the series, it feels as if it could go on a little bit longer to see what happens when the gods descended from the heavens to wipe them all. But at the end of the episode, you said the end, and there's not a mentions of whether there's any chances of a continuation. So it left a little dumbfounded and very unsatisfying ways to wrap up the series. And also had a bit of a problem with some of the episode where some episode looks like it's drawn by not their usual teams. It looks a little crude, little abject. But it's unfortunately something that's come to be expected more and more with oldest numbers of animated series that's coming out. Music was fine. I like the opening and Tank like the ending even more so than I probably do. And some of the characters felt very underdeveloped. Kumi got the proper amount of attentions on her origins and what she's meant to accomplish, and that was fine. But the other supporting characters felt like they are there, and when you watch the opening, it feels as if they should be given greater emphasis, and yet in the end, you get almost next to nothing, and that was very let down. Overall, I liked it enough, but it's hard to recommend anybody to watch it. Yeah, so I felt a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, I say give the ending song a shot, but other than that, sorry, someone walked into the room. I'm at my brother's house, so got family members. But yeah, listen to the ending song. That's the only thing I would recommend. It's really good. But I did like the idea of the some of like their whole cleric and paladin relationship and stuff. So there were some parts to it that were fun and interesting, but overall, I think I find it hard to recommend as well. That said, let's go on to the next title, which I think we're going to skip. Um, Ayakashi
Ayakashi.
Triangle, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's done yet, so.
Yeah, it's not done. Plus, everyone's waiting for Blu-rays, right? That's what everyone wants. But we got this one. Let me try this title. Benria Saito-san Isekai ni Iku, also known as Handyman Saito in Another World, which unfortunately I'm 2 episodes from the
Take it away, Albert.
So yeah, this ended up being one of two isekais that I kept watching to the end. There were several other shows, but a lot of them were not good as usual. And there's also the whole fantasy about reincarnated, so you're starting anew in a different time period or a different world, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, Benya Saito-san follows Saito, who is not a victim of truck gun, almost a victim of truck gun, but he's summoned to this fantasy world and joins a party as kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So he can do some lock picking. He can be the porter for the group. He can plan, make a tactical plan, that kind of thing, using his earthly skills. And so it's just about their adventure, and it starts off very short segments of story. So although it's based on the manga, it's not based on a 4-koma manga, right? So it seems that way when you're watching the anime. There's all these short segments of, opening a lock, falling down the dungeon, all these different segments. But in the manga, it's like that also. And when I started watching this, I had hoped they would smooth over those rough transitions at the beginning so you could get to the more interesting story. Unfortunately, I think in this case, they were too true to the manga format. And the really interesting things do not happen until you're well past episode 3. Up until then, you're basically getting to know the party members, some random characters, NPCs who end up, interacting with the main party, Saito and his party, eventually. But at the time, you're like, who are these people? And they just get a segment of what they're doing, and you have no idea. So, although I, finished watching it, and I did enjoy it for the most part, I feel like the adaptation kind of failed to bring about the storytelling to keep it interesting, grabbing people. Well, I think a lot of people dropped it before the 3 episode or even earlier because it wasn't interesting enough. That's kind of a shame. But if you like isekai and you don't mind, putting in a little bit of time to get to the more interesting stuff, I think it's there. But again, I don't think they did a very strong adaptation to the anime format. It's both writer. It's hard, but I think the writer, whoever the series composer was, and the director did not put a strong stamp.
It's almost
That's
as
kind of my view.
it's almost as felt as if he took easy way out by just sticking to the manga format. It's almost like polar opposite of what they did with what's the series? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a
Which one?
blank. The last season high school band, rock band.
Yeah, Butcher the Rock.
Ochi.
Yeah. Bocchi the Rock was strictly full panel comics, and the writers did the painstaking jobs to adapt into more fluidic approach, and that worked fantastically. And almost as felt as if that's the type of approach they should have done with Benya Saito as well. And I read the manga too, and it's like, okay, I know where this is going, but it's so chunky or clunky at the time. It's almost painful to watch at the beginning.
Yeah. But it does have its good points. All the voice actors were really good. The VA that voices Ryelza is Fairuz Ai, and he's been getting a lot of good roles. So most recently, she was Jolene in JoJo Part 6 on Ocean, and it's nice to see that she's getting good roles, character roles. But I have a heart. If you like isekai, I would recommend this as something different. But if just as an anime, I don't think I can really recommend it. Too high of a hurdle.
I think out of all the titles this season, this is one of the ones I could recommend because I think it has something for everyone and it's pretty fun. But I mean, I've never seen the source material, so I had nothing to compare it with. So to me, it kind of went okay and everything. So
I like the character Moloch the most. He's he has that equal share of that old perverted fool and the equal part that amazing wizard that he once was. And his switching going back and forth, especially towards the end, just works fantastically.
Yeah.
all right, so
They all had good stories.
uh,
What's next?
Jessica, did you want to talk about Blue Lock, or can we just pass on that?
No, we can pass on that one.
How about Boku no Hero? You guys want to touch on that, or
I won't watch.
oh, I'm reading the wrong line. Sorry, Buddy Daddies.
Hey, the only thing I can comment is it's almost like a typical PA works. They have one good one, then they have one not so good one, and this is not so good one. And here's hoping the next one will be better.
Yeah, I couldn't get into this one.
You want to talk about Danmachi season 4?
Yeah, let me see
Thanks.
here. Do I have the there it is. Open. Yeah, Danmachi season 4. This is the second half of season 4 because I believe they took a break in the middle of the season, right? And so we just continue on, and I will have to say that I was really surprised by what I did see, because this, out of the whole, all of everything I've ever seen, this whole part was like its own full arc rather than having like multiple arcs in a season. Because I think it's how it kind of started at the beginning, was like, first 4 episodes was this arc, for next 4 was this new thing. And I get it, to build up the characters, to introduce who he with, and then as you went on, it kept on doing these arc sessions. But when you got to the 4th season with the split, it was like the first half of it was the traveling down and getting to the lower floors, and then this new part that was just released was the conflict within the lower floors and resolving that. And it was nice to have this whole lengthy series to cover all the subject, and it was very, very saddening to me. And a lot of the things that happened, they gave you this, they really did give you a sense of hopelessness for a lot of characters, and you didn't know what was going to happen. Some characters were getting killed, and I was surprised by who was and who wasn't, but you have to watch to see what happens. But it definitely was very dark, and but because of that, you did have that feeling of hopefulness. That feeling that you're like, you guys can do it. Come on, just push more, harder. And so because of that hopelessness, it gave you that little sense of encouragement that you wanted to give for a show, which was really fun. And overall, I was very happy with it. I do have some friends that were talking to me about it, that were mentioning like what books it covered and such, and some of the things that he said, it kind of, he wished the fight with the last enemy was a little bit longer. But to me, overall, I think it went very well, and I was very pleased by the resolution of this, and I can't wait to see more, because there's definitely a lot more coming out. And my friend also tells me that I need to play Danmachi the game to get the side stories, because I guess they got a lot of stories of like with the other characters and their perspective of what happens and stuff, which would be fun. So if you're really into Danmachi and you've been watching this for a while and you want to know more, there's obviously the Danmachi game out there that you can play to get more of the side stories and stuff like that. Um, I think overall it was decent, and if you're a fan of it, I think you're obviously going to keep on watching it, and it's going to be very pleasing to finish.
Well, if you're a fan of a Ryu giving rare fan service, this is the season to watch.
Who?
In the end.
Oh. Actually, I don't think there's too much fan service if you compare to the other ones.
Oh no, it's a whole lot less, but you don't expect Ryu to give a fan service, but here we are.
So, did you guys want to talk about Reborn to the Master of the Blade?
I don't watch it.
Just a bit, not a whole lot.
Okay, give me 1 second to change this card. So the title of this is what? NU? NU. Wait, how do you say that? NUO?
No N.
Kiwamaru Tame Tenseisu. そして世界最強のマナリン騎士?
No,
Close
there
enough.
was a couple of wrong things. Close.
Close
Close
enough.
enough.
It's a lot of the long title.
Yeah, Reborn to the Master of the Blade, Hero Keen to an Extraordinary Squire, is what they have it translated to.
Right.
I was watching this, but
a lot.
forgot.
Yeah. I somehow watched through the whole thing. Do I regret it? Kinda. It's a time filler more than anything else. It's not really recommendable. Having said that, if you just want to watch the good part of this series, just watch the first 5 minutes of episode 1, and then you can just safely tuck it away and move on. Because to me, that was the best part. Right before he reincarnated into this girl with a muscleable brain and, covered with the exterior that's a whole lot deceiving compared to what it's going through her head. But the first 5 minute sequence I thought that was beautifully done. It's pity that the rest of the series was nothing like that. And the ending song was kind of like sort of slice up life, light upbeat kind of song, which is different from the series, but hey, it works. I like the song, so there's that.
But if you're an isekai completist, you probably gotta watch it. One of those isekai titles.
Yeah, that's a long and rough trail.
See what else. We'll skip that title. Skip Naga Toro. Oh no.
So tell us about the most degenerate show this season.
Oh yeah, this show. Ugh.
Don't go sighing at us. You love that show. You've dragged us into this thing.
I don't. I'll admit it was cringe to me. It was just. But since I got to see you guys suffer, that's why I loved it. It's inu ni natara na hito ni kurowarareta, or my life as Inukai's dog, and I believe what was it? Was it on High Dive, right? It's
It
on
was on High Dive censored, I think.
Yeah, so it is a censored show, so you're going to get a lot of these. I think there were like the motifs of the dogs and the paws and stuff like that, right? All over the place, and but it was also kind of like short, right? I believe 15 minutes long. It wasn't a full episode, so they were kind of short, and we would always chase this until they ran out of episodes with that one show with the girl that won't let him be invisible. What's her name?
Kubo-san?
Kubo. Yeah. So we would always watch that right after to get that nasty feeling off of us after we watch this. Watch something really wholesome. But there's not much to say about this. The boy changes into a dog. He gets into mischief as he tries to figure out what's going on with himself and why is a dog and tries to solve the problems. And because of it, he always ends up in these really weird scenes or situations, I should say, that you normally wouldn't want himself to be in. But I don't blame the dog too much because Inukai or whatever her name, yeah, I think it's Inukai. She had some really screwed up thoughts as well, and
You think?
and it was just cringe after cringe in a lot of these scenes. And I will say one thing I was really happy with was that I figured out who the voice actor for the mother was because they didn't have her listed, and her voice was bugging me for a while. Then I finally figured out it was from who it was, and I was so happy. So that did make me happy there. But other than that, I don't know. I think the manga still going? I wonder how far they went with the manga versus the anime because the anime kind of left off with this. We can definitely go on with more episodes later on. I feel, but I don't know
And
if it will.
there's 8 volumes listed for the manga. sure there's lots more. So if there is a season 2, are you gonna watch it?
Uh, I don't know. I'll have to
Uh,
see what other shows are there. If I can
You
find
can
something
watch
else.
it, but I think we're gonna rally to put that one down on season 2.
I'll admit, it wasn't something I really wanted to watch. It was just something that I voted for just to make others suffer.
I think, as you said, it was a tradition to throw in one edgy series just to balance things out, and this was it for the season.
Yeah. I think most of the time when we were watching this, we were also doing other things like, oh, this is our drink break. Go ahead, use the restroom if you need to, and stuff like that.
You kind of have to because this was just ugh, it's just horrible.
But yeah, I mean, I think the show just targets 3 girls, and yeah, a lot of upskirt stuff because of how the dog size, and you obviously saw a lot of breast. That's it. And if you're even more of a degenerate than us, you can find the Blu-rays out there, and they're all uncensored. But I did see some funny stuff posted about them. Like someone tweeted once that he was walking down the street, Bakihabara, I think it was, and they were handing out these cards with cut laces of underwear with perfume smell for Inukai, and it was just they had this little square cut out on the business card promoting Inukai show, and I was like, what? So show brought a lot of funny stories out there, I think. Other than that, let's go to a better show, which surprised me even more than this show. And that's Isekai Nonbori Noka, which is my the farming life in another world. And I have to say I was really happy with this show and how it turned out. And for one thing, they toned down the fan service a whole lot. And they changed a lot of the things that would have been like, whoa, to something a little more discreet, and even cut out whole sections of parts where the book was just forthcoming with what it's going on, while this book was more you need to read it into our words to get what's going on, which wasn't too hard, but still. And they did answer a lot of questions and stuff that I think Albert had at the beginning, and stuff that he mentioned, like about the fruit and stuff that he's growing. Like, do they exist in that world,
Mhm.
or what's with them? And they actually do mention that quite a bit, where they're like, oh, I've never seen this before. This is very similar to what we have called, or like appa, but these are apples kind of thing, where they translate it. So they did mention that a lot of the stuff that he was growing was new to them, that they didn't know what they were, and that they didn't even know kind of existed. So even in the world where they were selling them out to cities, it was very exotic and very new and sold for a lot of money because of that. So they did answer a few questions like that, which was really fun. But I also noticed, because I decided to go read the manga again just to see how close it was, and they rearranged the whole story for the anime. A lot of things took place in different orders, such as the show kind of ended with a birth within the city, the first birth. Everyone was
Oh,
happy, and it was a joyous event. They had a celebration, food, want alcohol and stuff. But surprisingly, that happens like in the second book of the manga, and a lot of these characters that are already in the anime haven't even been introduced. So they definitely took liberty to move things around to try to introduce more characters faster, and to move the story along. But overall, I really thought it was done very well, and um, it was a really fun show to watch. And of course, if you like the manga, I think you'll enjoy this just as much. Though I would say the eyes kind of threw me off a little bit with how they were drawn, but when I saw the manga again, they kind of had a very similar vibe, and I was like, oh, I never noticed that. I guess.
I think this is one of the few where anime adaptation is actually more plausible. It's easier to get into than the manga or light novel for that matter. As Tank mentioned, that it they toned down a lot of excessive fan service aspect of it and kind of turned it into more of a slice of life type of approach where not much happening but other than just gradual expansion of the farming land and of course town along with a village rather. And yes, the rearrangement happened and it got rid of a lot of word dumping that was ever so present in manga and a little bit too much of that in manga. That's kind of streamlined into the quick snapshot of the view of the map of the town itself as how far along they've been developing. And the liberty they took to rearrange the storyline probably worked out for better impact since they knew how many episodes they're getting to have a season done. And I think that writer felt that having the first birth of the town just makes more sense to happen near the end instead of at the beginning as the manga did. Then you kind of have to face the whole little bit of a queasy aspect of the fan service that the original series suffered from it, and they by sidestepping that aspect of it, they were able to gradually answer the questions of okay, are they gonna have a kid? And here's the kids, and this is the first one towards the end where everybody's already in place, and let's end with the high notes of a grand celebration. I think that really worked out much better than manga did with.
Mhm. I will say they did tone down a few scenes which I was expecting more of, such as their first encounter with the wyvern. Like
Mm.
in the anime, he was very chill about it. He's very like, oh, I guess I need to take care of this. While in the manga, he was outright outraged, and even the girls got afraid of him and were like, okay. And he's like, oh no, am I that angry? I just can't believe it. He was just um, his rage was so much more in the book than in the manga. He was more chill in the manga.
Mm.
But and another example for like fan service tone down, which I thought was interesting, which one of the scenes in the manga, this girl outright just goes into his room naked and then gets apprehended by an elf with a sword, like, what are you doing here? And she's like, oh, I was looking for the restroom. And the village chief's like, oh, okay, it's down the hall and stuff. And he's like, he just thinks to himself, did she go to the restroom naked? That's really weird. But in the anime, they changed it to the bathhouse where he's taking a bath and the girls are caught outside. They're like, where you going? They're like, oh, we're going to take a bath. They're like, this is the wrong bath. And they're like, oh, we're sorry. Oh, we're going
Mm.
this way now. So they still had those implications of like what was they were going through and what they were trying to do, but it was toned down a lot, and I thought it played off very nicely still.
And I thought the drawing quality was pretty consistent. There was really no obvious ups and downs, and it was fairly even from most of the episode. And they are drawn fairly well, given that that's just the way how they were supposed to look in manga. So they didn't skip out on the production, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. But that being said, though, I think we can go on to the next. I don't know. I kind of want to call this an isekai, but it isn't an isekai, right? Which is, I guess, if you want to translate it to its smaller name, Bofuri.
Yeah, that's a VR video game, so I guess it is.
This, I would have to say, I was really disappointed with the second season.
I'll have to
Not
agree with
over, is
that.
it?
I'm sorry. What did you say, Albert?
It's not over, is it? Because they had that. They were delayed.
Yeah, there's a 2 more or 3 more episodes to go.
Oh, really?
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, still, I'm disappointed. I do know we had a week break where there was nothing. I didn't know
Mhm.
was going to be still released right now, but overall, like at first I thought they were rushing things because like the first season they what was it like you did all the character introductions and everything, getting them powered up, and then they got through the first floor, but then within the first 2 episodes they went through 2 more floors just like snap like that, and then they just kept on going through these new floors, new additions, and new things, just one after the other, and it just I don't know if they're why they did it that way. It seemed like instead of giving us this world where we can explore each floor and see what each floor had to offer, it was more, oh, we need to get these key characters, the abilities that they need to do this next event real quick and get them into these fights where people can see the antics of a maple and stuff. But yeah, I think I just couldn't enjoy it.
I mean, I didn't read the light novel, so I don't know if all this floor skip was intentional or just that they decide to skip out to focusing on more interesting part of it. I mean, after all, it's Maple, not Kirito, so I don't think we need to go through each floor in exhausting matter. But it was really more of the same, except impact is a lot less since first season was pretty much all about Maple's growth from the novice online game player into this freak of nature, the power that be keep on piling up on new ability, just accidentally stumbling upon one after another. And whereas the second season, seemingly the biggest thing that happened was that everybody gets to have their companion pet like a Pokemon, and that was it. And that at least that's why I feel that all other added abilities that Maple obtained wasn't really a whole lot of earth moving as they did in the first season, where pretty much any add-on is so much more to it than ever before.
I do have to say one thing though. I can't remember which episode it was. I think it was maybe 4 or 5. They went full CG for this whole fight, and it looked terrible. It was crazy, and I don't know if anything. You guys have to see this episode and tell me what y'all think compared to how the animation normally is. It's just that one episode kind of almost made me want to quit. It's like, no, why?
Well, at least it's not a horse carriage, so.
I can't remember what episode it was. I think it was episode 5 or 4. It's one of those because they were doing a event,
Right.
and they ended up fighting in this like library, and one of the monsters in there was this really complicated, like really weird electrical monster, and so instead of just making the monster CG though, they made everyone CG, and it just threw me off because I wasn't ready for that. I was like, I could accept the monster CG, but for the
Mhm.
characters to go CG like that, it kind of threw me off.
I mean, it's not as bad as that series from a couple seasons ago, where it started off with every fighting scene is like CG.
What was it, like the Black Knight or something like
Yeah, Black Swordman or something like
that?
that.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but still kind of jarring.
Mhm.
But other than that, you have anything else to add, or is this like one of those shows that you're going to finish, Albert? Or
No, I dropped out a long time ago.
oh, okay. Let's go on to the next title, which seems to be me. I loved it. And I don't know why a lot of people just can't get into this show. The Eminence in the Shadow. Or The Eminence in Shadow, I guess. This finally ended. It was 2 core, so it continued from last season, and it ended on 20 episodes, so it ended a little sooner than everything else. But the ending, it was amazing, and the moments to get to that were really cool. Like I can remember even the second to last episode, fourth to the last episode, they had these scenes, these fight scenes that were just done really well, and just it was just craziness. And of course, it's an isekai, but it knows it's going to be stupid, and it takes full advantage of that, and everyone knows just how ridiculous the show is going to be. So this is one of those shows that you're not going to go in with a lot of expectations. It's one of those shows that's like, let's just accept all the dumb stuff that's going to happen, and it's just going to be fun. And the way it does that is because of Sid, the main character. To him, in this new world where he's reborn, he believes that everything that's happening around him is staged. That his friends that he saved as a young child, that created the Eminence in the Shadow, are so thankful to him in a way that they've decided to help him leave his boredom and play this game of make believe with him because of all these stories he's told. But little does he know that every single thing he said is true. Every little nonsense thing happens, and everyone, all of his followers, kind of treat him as this all-knowing person just because of blind luck. Like there's moments where they're like, someone's imitating us, and they're slashing people in the alleys, and Sid's like, he remembers when he was slashed by this classmate. He's like, "Oh, it's probably her." So he's like, "Don't worry, I know who it is. I'll take care of it." And they all think he's already solved this mystery that they've been trying to solve for days. And lo and behold, he hears some sword clashing. He goes down an alley, and there they are fighting. And they think that he solved this big mystery, but to him, he's like, "Huh, I never found the person," type of thing. And it's just ridiculous in the way they tell the story. And um, they changed quite a bit from the manga and light novel, but I think they did it in a way to tell the story to be more impactful. Like the very ending, the very arc that it ends on, was this very simple fight in the arena, and in the anime, they took a whole episode to showcase this whole fight that went all over the city, and it was just really fun and amazing. And I wish I could highly recommend this to people. I know if you like isekai and dumb anime, this is a show for you. But if you're, I just wish I could tell more people to watch this, but I don't think anyone else would want to watch this within the group right now. Other than that, yeah, that's Vinny shown a gif where he goes, "R, yeah," that he whispers. Awesome. Let's go to the next title, which is going to be, how do you say this? Kaiko Sareta Ankoku Eishi 30 Die no Slow na Second Life. Which you would think was an isekai, but it isn't.
Did you enjoy it? The whole series?
Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Yeah, chilling in my 30-year-old life. So it went very similar to the manga. I thought with the tone down of fan service. So everything kind of happened the way I was expecting it to happen.
Mm.
So it was somewhat enjoyable just to see it animated, but it kind of wasn't too eye catching as I kind of knew what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my impression, which is why I dropped it. And then I watched the very last episode, and I'm like, yeah, that's where I thought it would end. So everything about it was fairly predictable. Although the title was kind of, I mean, he's talking about a slow second life, right? Chilling and all that, but he doesn't actually do that. He ends up being involved in this huge plot, and then his whole backstory crumbles when his true heritage is revealed and all of that. So, and all these other people start showing up at the village in the nowhere, which ends up becoming this I don't know, a gathering spot for all the heroes and heroes wannabe. So the title is a little misleading, I would say.
Yeah. I think if you've never seen the source material for it, I think it does a really good job telling what it wants to tell and being what it is. So I think if you were going into this without anything, you would somewhat enjoy it because it has a lot of the I think isekai tropes without being an isekai, kind of, where he comes to this village after being. I think this just follows more of the that new trope that's going on, right? I'm kicked out of this party or something like that, and now I have to
Kicked out of a hero party type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so this one's kicked out of the demon army, and now he's trying to live his new life. But of course, once he gets kicked out where he left, is now suffering, and where he's at is now prospering. So that's the newest trope that's been going around. So the story does really well in telling that, and I think what makes it really great is that the relationship between Daryl and his wife. I can't remember the mother's name. Marina, something like that.
Malika.
So I think the relationship between those two is really well done, and uh, because of that, it makes this show more enjoyable than I would say, because it's not one of those. He gets kicked out, and now he has a whole harem of these other girls now that are fine for him, right? It's just this one relationship, and he's being successful adapting to his new life and his new family, of course, without being it slow, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he is the object of all these other women's attention, but he is just a very straightforward, man in love with his wife. It was nice to for once see a character protagonist and these kinds of fantasy or isekai man up, propose, get married, and have a kid. Of I touched her hand and I oh, thank God for that.
Yeah. I do have
Well,
to say though that it wasn't more or less he was afraid of touching the hand, but more or less of the hugging.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's has all his bones intact.
Do you have anything to add, Vinny? Or
It's just the title. It's got the two things that I just makes me want to cringe every time I look at it. Turning 30-year-old guys into this old man stereotype and slow life being anything but slow life. But it's
at least they didn't play into that old trope, which is becoming a wizard at the age of 30.
oh god, that's just a whole another level of cringiness. I think this was a little too goody two shoes for my liking, given that the premise sounded as if it didn't have to be. But it's maybe okay series. It's not anybody. I don't think it's gonna be in anybody's top watch list.
You know,
I, hmm
oh, go ahead and finish what you're saying.
I don't think many people remember this series 2 seasons down the road.
Well, maybe not, but I do want to say this to segue into our new title because you were talking about how this was too good natured, right? And this show, the Grace of the Gods too. Oh my god, that character drove me crazy with how polite and nice he was.
he's a he's your prototypical goody two shoes to the core. But then again, in that series, whole premise was built on doing just that. Whereas this slow life kind of started off as it could go into a revenge plot, so redemption plot or something. But it kind of turned into this mushy, goody goody kind of thing. So anyway, on to the next, I guess.
Yeah, which is the Grace of the Gods. But like I said, this one it's just Ryoma drives me crazy. I remember reading the web novel or a version of the web novel where it was actually very dark compared to what we see now within the light novel and stuff.
Mm.
Where he told a lot of really dark stories and a lot of stuff that happened to him in his life. Because if you remember from the first season, he had a lot of resistance to like poisons, to sickness, to all this stuff because he had a really harsh life before he came there. And within the light novel or web novel, I think it was, they actually went into details to some of that. And he actually was, he still was kind of nice, but he had this more also dark moments where he would tell these stories of how he used to live. Like I remember one story was like he was like he got into a conflict and they were like talking about how why because they tried to poison him and he's like how come it didn't work and he's like oh because in my past life at one time these people gave me poison and also did left me out in the cold to see which I would die first from either sickness or from the poison. Of course, none of it happened, but he had these really dark stories of what happened to him and why he became so. It kind of explained why he had those strong numbers at the beginning, but this one doesn't even show any of that. It's always his good life. I mean, season one still had somewhat of a little stories, like it told how he used to um, do the carriage where he would pull the carriages as a side job and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and or he had to work really hard to do these other things. But along the line, I think with the web novel, they kind of changed it and made it this super super happy, no conflicts really ever type of story, and it just not my thing. I think.
This is the one that really does deserve slow life on the title more so than other series. Because, ever since he started this laundromat business, everything just kind of moved into like a pleasant, nothing big kind of ways. Yeah, there's a town festival, but there's no crisis looming over there. It's literally just throwing a festival and he get to joining and chip in here and there. So it's one of those that if you just don't want to think too much or try to follow the plot or you just don't want to see any kind of a conflict, just, let it just wash over something, everybody being good and happy and all that. Just turn this on and just either watch it or just kind of glance over or just let it play on your TV for a little while kind of series.
Yeah, like there's one other thing that bugged me no end, and that's him inventing all these things or recreating, I should say, right? All these things in this world, and what he's like 10 years old, and no one questions all these things that he's been making, all these ideas, and also every time oh, you let me sell that, and he's like, oh, okay, it's gonna be, it just drove me insane.
Tank is allergic to really good people. I mean, but then again, hope world is somewhat of a broken in a way that all of a sudden we got a town that has all those Japanese ingredients are made readily available to turn into food items. So who's to say that people just accepted the fact that he's some kind of prodigy and just leave it at that? I think by season two, everybody just came to accept that he's just one of a kind. There's really no need to think any harder than that.
I see. I still know. I can't believe I finished it though.
Hmm.
Going on to the next title. Did you want to talk about the cool guy girl? What was it called? Kori
Uh,
Sukse Danshi Okuna Dorio Yoshi?
yeah, just a little bit, not long. I came across this in Pixiv a few years ago and didn't expect it to turn into full-blown series and turn into animation. Basically, it's a guy who's a descendant of Yuki Onna, who falls in love with his coworker who has a very flat affect, doesn't smile, doesn't say much, very cold demeanor, and he just falls hopelessly in love with her. And this is really basically all about him trying to figure out a ways to get to know her, befriends her, and hopefully turning into something of a meaningful office romance. So there's really nothing negative. It's a really feel good kind of series. It's mainly about him and his hijinks about freezing things over whenever he gets nervous. He literally melts down into a small child when he gets overheated. And couple of his coworkers also has these quirks, whereas one was a descendant of fox demons, and one is a descendant of a phoenix. So they got this little sort of sidekick gag kind of thrown in there. Mm. But it's one of those that kind of if you're not fan of romance, this is not gonna cut it, since it's gonna make you feel like this is so unrealistic. How could people be so good about this and that? But if you don't mind, and I believe this is geared towards more towards a older woman type of viewers and readers. So
So Jose?
Jose, yeah. So if you just like this, a little bit of a, it's a lighthearted drama, relationship dynamic, nothing big, nothing too big, nothing too serious, but each episode's, he's moving at a slow pace towards getting to know her better, and him sweating out about like many little misunderstanding, then to come to find out that she's pretty interested in him as much as he is to her, so that he doesn't realize that because she has a very good poker face, that she's not good at expressing herself. And he kind of comes to realize that, oh my god, these feelings are mutual, this is all good, and gets really happy about um um beyond that, music is another series where I like the music a lot, especially the opening. Actually turned it into the one of the songs I listen to when I'm commuting. Um,
I do
yeah,
have a
that's.
question.
Mhm.
So, is this whole thing take place within the office, or does it actually expand outside of the office? Because it seemed like it was going to be more geared towards this office romance and just what's around the office.
It usually works around the office, but they do go out into outings. Was the first episode, they actually go out to the beach for the company gatherings kind of thing, and they also go to other places for. It's mainly related to the work. They do go out to the business trip together towards the end of the series to give up the presentation to one of the clients, and he and a group of coworkers who's also now becoming friends, they go out to ski resort to try out the ski. So it's not just limited to the office setting. It does bench out a little bit more than that, and they do show his house as how it looks like and what he does in outside of work, and they showed a little bit of her, the Fuyutsuki. She's the main character, that his love interest. they do show her home settings where she has a black cat, and what she does when she's not at work and what she thinks about ways.
Sorry, got interrupted again. Okay, let's go to the next title, right? I think we can skip Kubo-san. We'll talk about that next season because it's continuing on. It got delayed due to, I think it was COVID, right?
Yeah.
So next up, I think we can skip that one. How about Monogatari? Did you want to talk about that, Jessica?
No, I dropped it, so
Wait a minute.
got nothing to say.
Did you want to talk about Nier, Albert, or Vinny?
Oh, I dropped it.
This is another one in limbo because of COVID, and I don't think they made an announcement as to what they're going to do with the episode 9 and beyond. So, and unfortunately, the second delay pretty much killed the momentum that it was trying to build up on. As first episode was very chunky. That CGI flight sequence was pretty terrible. But then towards episode 4 and 5, they started to expand beyond what was shown in the video game, which was very interesting in a way that there was a lore that was never fully explained because of the creator being who he is. He never really explained anything in full matter. And I think anime was trying to approach it in an angle where kind of each scratch the itch that everybody had. But then schedule fell apart, so who knows what's going to happen beyond that. I can't even make a conclusive statement at this point.
All right. Let's see what else is there. Do you want to talk about the Ningen Fushi? No, bunch of other words. The adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world.
人間不信の冒険者たちが世界を救うようです。It's just another garden variety. I mean, it has interesting premises of people who's been wronged by others, betrayed, and has emotional baggage, decide to form a group of misfit toys and turning into this grand adventure and becoming a hero party at the end. But I don't know. It's just pretty blah series. Animation is pretty terrible. Character looks pretty awful most of the times. I mean, I'll have to say the character settings and what they're going through conflict is more in depth than the Your Garden Variety Isekai series, but unfortunately, just everything else is pretty dismal to look at. So
Yeah, and surprisingly, it is an isekai, right? It's not just
no,
pure
it's a straight up
fantasy
yeah,
with
yeah.
idols.
Yeah, idol. I was like, why? It's kind of weird that randomness thrown in there, but
Yeah, surprising with isekai in its title, right?
Mm.
It has isekai in the title,
no, it doesn't have isekai.
right? Oh, it just has sekai.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Next up, uh, the Tale of Outcast. Jessica, do you want to talk about that? Or
No, I don't think I watched any more of it since the beginning of the season discussion.
okay, I kind of dropped it too. I didn't. So that leaves us with this other gem that was I don't know, everyone's favorite and within our group to a sense was Oni-chan Oshimai. Uh Yeah, I'm now your sister is what it's called. So Big Brother somehow becomes the little sister due to his little sister's experiment. And I have to say, this show has some really great animation, and very a lot of these scenes are just have such good fluid motion and just look really nice. And it I kind of didn't want to watch it, but then when I did watch it, I enjoyed it, and it was just I don't know. For some reason I was just very stubborn and kind of didn't want to watch this because I didn't want to like it, but I knew I would like it. But yeah, Vinny, if you want to talk about it, just
Yeah, just a little bit. I think this was literally the animators' favorite series of the seasons because there's a tons of key frames and animation from all these animators and the artists just thrown in there who partake in the production, and you can just look at it and see how much they liked it. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother doing any of that. This is, as Tank said, that the little sister decided to rehabilitate her failing older brother who just turned his life into neat, but just sitting in his room and doing nothing but playing video games and collecting figures and reading erotic manga by creating a concoction that turned him into a girl, except that now he looks a lot younger than her. So, well, since now you turn into little sister, let's call you my little sister and send you back to school and see if they'll set you straight. And all the hijinks that started. Premise sounds like it's got all the troubles that's coming at since it's a gender bender type of series. But then beyond the first episode where you kind of have to give the introductions and explanations of what the hell just happened, it turned into surprisingly wholesome series for the most of the parts that was it Miharu, was it?
the sister
No, the brother turned sister.
isn't it Mashiro?
Machiro, right. He knows that he's deep down inside he's still a guy, and yeah, now he's gotta be surrounded by girls most of the time since he's gonna have to hang out with a bunch of middle schoolers and try to act the age. So he does try to stay straight by not falling into your obvious the fan service trope that, and I mean, it kind of turns into accidental moment here and there, but nothing. Every episode you watch is like, it's like it didn't do any of the things that you expected to happen, and I think that was a good move that they did. And I mean that's the same with the manga too, and it spends so much time on pretty much all aspects of animation except the hands. I think some episode the hands looks very off. It's almost like a drawn in CG models and kind of thrown in there, which is kind of a jarring, especially if you look at their facial expression. It's very dynamic, and sometimes when they're going from places to place, it's got a lot of things going on. But overall, if you can just overlook that gender bender premise, it's surprisingly good series to watch.
But speaking of that fan service you're talking about, even when it does kind of get spicy, I think it mostly focuses on the older girls rather than the younger girls.
True.
And but I did not know this until midway through the season, but I didn't know that show was actually censored on Crunchyroll.
Yes.
I mean, there was obvious censorship, but I didn't know how censored it was compared to if you watch the Japanese release. Like whole scenes
Right.
were cut out, and the blur was, or the steam, if you want to call it, was a lot heavier in the global release than in the Japanese release. And there's actually a few videos out there I found that show you side comparisons between how they were censored. And I can understand why they took out certain stuff, but overall, even with the censorship, it's not that bad because there was not that many moments except for I think maybe near the last episode where there was just a whole almost half the episode was kind of censored because of the bath
Right,
scene.
because they had the hot spring and the locker room scenes. Some of the sequences are taken out, but if you know what you're looking for, I think Oz mentioned that you know that this was censored. But if you once paid close attention to those things, you probably wouldn't really know or care that it was censored out altogether.
Yeah, but overall, it's I think it was an okay show. There's a lot of clips on and releases of the animation sequences on TikTok or Twitter, I should say,
Mhm.
that you can watch. That's really interesting. Plus, they had the one of the few shows that's still keeping the old tradition of end cards, right?
Yeah.
So those were really fun to check out at the end. You're like, oh, look at this picture. This is so nice. So we got those little end cards for this show, and but yeah, it was okay. Next up, we got this show. I'll let Jessica talk because she had talked. What's
All
his
right,
what's
what
his
show
what's
are
his
we on?
kid's name? Kaina.
Oh, Kaina and the Great Snow Sea.
How do you? Oh, it's O. Starts with an O. How do you say that? Oyuki
Oyuki?
Ume no Kaina. I'm actually sad. I forgot about this.
This is one that the story is just okay. It's not anything revolutionary or brand spanking new. I'm mainly watching it for the world. I kind of feel the world is a character in a way. It's complex and it's so bizarre. I just can't get enough of it. I think there's going to be a movie to wrap up the story because the story didn't 100% resolve with the end of the anime. I guess
Yeah, you're
all
correct.
yeah. Um my main contention is that I've never really cared for Polygon Pictures' CG animation. I feel that it's very stiff in comparison to, say, Orange and a couple other studios that use a lot of CG. However, it's better than oh crap, the Sidonia series. That one was pretty bad. So they've improved a little bit. The characters' expressions are a little less of a slider the way they were. They really reminded me of video game character sliders in Sidonia, and they're better here. So there is some improvement. But if you have an allergy to CGI anime, I wouldn't say that this is the one to cure you or to inoculate you for your allergy. There's certainly better series out there like Land of the Lustrous. Watch that instead. Um, Again, I think this is just pretty okay for a show. Albert, I know you were watching this one. What did you think?
Yeah, so I have a similar take to yours that the setting and the world and the lore is fascinating, which is the strong point. But the actual adventure is kind of standard, and the thing I find annoying is that for being 40th anniversary project for Polygon Pictures, don't think their animation it is worthy of a 40th anniversary project. And yes,
No.
compared to Knights of Sidonia, it has improved in increments, and the movement I think is pretty good at this point, body movement. However, the facial expressions are just not up to it. It just looks plasticky to me. The subtleties are hard to hard to express without very overt shading, like when they're blushing. So everything just kind of feels flat. And for the main character, you have Princess Ririha is voiced by Ria Takahashi. Right? She's the voice of Megumin and Emilia and Ash and all these. She can do a great job, and yet she comes off really timid and I don't know, flat to me in this story. So I would watch the film just to see what the conclusion is going to be, but it it's hard to recommend this. Oh, interesting. So there are two series this season that I thought had great lore and setting and background. And besides this, there was one called Hikari no O, or The Fire Hunter, which for some reason wasn't on this list. That also had abysmal animation, and cannot recommend it. But I'm on the fence about watching season 2 because the world setting is just so fascinating. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I think they really need to step up their facial.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Sidonia, where the blushes would pop in, where the character would have a normal face, and then all of a sudden the little blush icons would just go boink. It was distracting. And in this one, it's a little better, but compared to, the hand-drawn animation or anything by Studio Orange that does hand-draw a lot of the characters' facial expressions, there's a lot left to be desired. And I think the reason why the voice actress doesn't really stand out is because her role, and Kaina's role too as a character, weren't that demanding or even interesting. She's just a princess of a beleaguered kingdom. This is your classic kingdom good, empire bad setup. There's really nothing there. And the main bad guy is just evil because he's evil. There's very little under the hood. So, I don't know. I would only say watch this if you are a fan of lore and world building and you're curious about the setting. So it's really a hard sell and a tough recommendation to make for just about anybody else, I think.
Agreed.
Wasn't it done by Polygon Pictures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, it's got Maya Sakamoto. I'm a big fan of her.
Mm.
Let's go on to the next title. I definitely want to finish this because I was actually really interested in it, but I just kind of forgot about it because of all the other stuff I was watching. But next up is one that I was surprised with the ending. The ending really got me. And
Really?
Yeah. I wasn't really invested in this show, Reading Vanja. So
We all finished it though.
Hank was along for the ride.
Yeah.
I have to say that this one, I expected an absolute bloodbath, especially towards the end, because it's by Gen Urobuchi. He is not kind to his characters. That's what I love about him. And we didn't really get that.
Although the scene where they had an interaction with his wife, that was surprisingly
that was
hardcore.
Good. That was really good. See, that's the kind of stuff that I expect from Gen. Because that was pretty dark.
I'm like, we are watching this. That explains why there's a hole on that coin so much.
Yeah. No, this one, it's one that I did enjoy watching, but I don't think I'd ever rewatch it the way that I rewatch Fate Zero every couple years, I'll go rewatch that one. I'll rewatch Madoka Magica. I'll rewatch Psycho-Pass. This one, I enjoyed it, but again, I think one watch is good enough for me.
Mm. I like the setting of it. It's somewhat unconventional since it takes place in Nagasaki, not your prototypical Tokyo and the Kyoto. And the fact that it tried to incorporate some of the historical fact-ish, the limited trading port that was set up in Nagasaki, and that's kind of used it as a plot point to introduce all this problem that's coming its way. So I like those parts very much so.
Yeah, it was kind of neat to have an anime reference the Shimabara Rebellion.
Mm.
I really can't remember another anime that even name dropped it like this one did. So there were a couple little nuggets like that if you're a history buff that you get all excited about. But it's definitely not supposed to be a historical representation of the times. Because there are a lot of anachronisms and stuff, but that's okay because the physical abilities of the Revengers were totally over the top and outside the realm of reality, and it was fun to see them just do these superhuman things.
I wonder if a samurai does a shriek like that before they start getting into a sword fight.
I don't know, but I was down for it. I thought it was kind of cool because normally he's so taciturn and he doesn't emote very much. And so when he does that battle cry yell right before he charges in, you're just, oh, it's an interesting side of him to see. The gold lacquer thing I didn't get where he puts it over their face because gold is not, it's really soft and malleable, so I don't know that it would suffocate you, right? Unless it was a different, is he mixing it with something else?
I think he's mixing with the lacquer that kind of works as a quickcrete kind of way.
Okay, that makes a little more sense because I was just, how is he killing people with gold? I mean, again, it's kind of badass and kind of, baller, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I don't think it's supposed to make sense in any way because, like, at the very end, it disintegrates, right?
Yeah,
That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
None of it makes sense, but it's just
it's cool.
looking.
Yeah, it definitely feels
the
over
rule of
reals.
cool.
Yeah, rule of cool.
So, there is a long-running series in Japan called Hisatsu Shigoto Nin, and it is essentially this. It's about a group of assassins who take on jobs from the common people to enact their revenge. And I'm sure the reason they couldn't use that name is because of trademark, but that is essentially this. So there are all these, every season, it's not like continuous, but every series has a different cast of characters, except for maybe one or two people that you've seen in the previous series. And they have different killing methods, different cool action scenes, and revealing the evils that bureaucracy has spawned and all that kind of thing. So it's based off of that. I did like that it was set in Nagasaki, and it makes sense that being one of the ports open to foreigners, that all these cultures are there. Although it's also interesting that everyone spoke standard Japanese. So I was a little bit disappointed about that. But I'm like, okay, I'm just, that's a hand wavy part, sure. And a lot of the historical elements, the bits and pieces are there, although obviously things have changed, morphed into almost an alternate timeline, right? Because there was no gigantic cathedral that took over the entire port or things like that. And frankly, I thought the final conflict would be at the church, but it didn't turn out that way.
Too. Oh my gosh. because another theme of Gen Urobuchi is that the system is a lie, or the world is a lie. And so I kept expecting, is it Usui, to
Yeah.
find out that the nun and the priest were bad news bears, and he'd have to have this inner conflict about, well, do I keep doing this even though I know it's not true? But that never really panned out, and I was kind of surprised.
Yeah,
Because it
so I
seemed to be setting up for that. Sorry, Albert.
no, I think you're correct, and I think he left it open ended for maybe a possible season 2, where you would see some of these characters who survived go on to into a greater conflict with the source of their revenge requests, the church. But I don't know. So kind of ambiguous. I did think the ending that happened would be bloodier, but for several of the characters, I kind of saw that was the path that they were going fairly early on. So there was no huge twist in the middle like you would have expected. But it was a passable series. It was entertaining, and it was a rule of cool.
Mm-hmm. So what are everyone's favorite superpowers, I guess we'll call them?
That harpoon bow.
Oh, me too. Me too.
That's just such a badass.
That was my favorite by far.
Yeah, especially the last episode.
Yeah. Oh, that was just so cool.
I'll have to say the way the trade association head end up dying, that was satisfying to watch.
Yes. Yes, very much.
Hank?
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't saying anything, so
I was letting you guys finish. Because, like, I wasn't too into the show. I did watch all of it, but I was also doing art at the same time the show was playing, so I didn't get all the info, but I did like certain moments and such. Like when he kind of related to that one guy, that was like the enemy for the first half,
Mm-hmm.
and how he kind of started relating with him and talked to him about like why he was, or
The pajama police?
yeah. So there's a lot of really fun things. But I will say this also, it kind of made me think about more of a Hanafuda, right? Is that what the game was?
Yeah.
Me wanting to look into that again to see why he thought certain cards were lucky and weren't. Some weren't. So maybe when I
Be
go
sure
to
to
this
sharpen it up.
convention, I can look those up.
Oh, one other thing I'd like to add is that the character designs were really well done. Is that they all sort of worked around a theme for the character and embodied that character's personality and role within the group. So it was really handy when the kind of mirror universe Revenger group shows up with the monk and the Tonfa kid and all of that, is that just by glancing at them, because they didn't get a whole lot of screen time, but just by looking at them, you knew exactly what they were about, the way they were designed and drawn and their outfits and everything. And so, yeah, real strong character designs in this one. Interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm. I will have to say this though, the funnest moment in this show was when I told my friends what Albert told us about that one person being a guy, not a girl.
Mm-hmm.
They were shocked. It was hilarious just listening to them like, no way.
Oh, I
no,
think
what?"
that was me, by the way.
Oh,
yeah, that was Jessica.
Yeah.
sorry.
And then Vinny had the actual term, Kagema.
Yeah, none of the other people watching it with us knew it either, so it was such a shock. And I was like, I know, I did put two and two together. It's crazy. But they're still like, no, cute as justice. It's okay. They still love him either way. But And it was kind of funny how they did bring that up later. I think with him flying the kite, right?
Yeah.
So eventually we would have found out, but it was kind of fun to get that information a little ahead of time. But other than that, yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch the last few episodes again because I think I heard Vinny mention something which I was like, what? I must have missed that. So I'll have to watch the ending again to see what happened. But yeah, I thought his painting. The only thing I thought was really weird was that he made all those wonderful paintings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she was always sad.
Yeah.
She was never happy. I was like, those were really amazing paintings.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so when you remember the episode where the wife was in it, it kind of explained as to why he was never able to draw her happy
Mm-hmm.
look to it.
I must have missed that.
And I really liked that he kept thinking about her through the entirety of the series.
Mm.
Because a lot of times when you have a character like that die, it's just, oh no, my wife in the first episode, and then it's never brought up again. And in here, he'd constantly refer to her or think about her, and then the drawings were another way to bring it home that he cared for her very deeply.
Yeah.
Okay, the next title we have is surprising me because of who actually finished it, according to this list. Or am I reading the wrong line again? The Ryogo ni sonata isekai de 8 manmai no inka wo tamemasu. Is that right?
Yeah, close enough. Yeah, so I finished it and Vinny finished it, looks like.
Yeah, somehow.
Somehow. Well, I mean, it's based on a light novel. I've read the manga. I've actually still reading the manga, and it's an isekai, and the interesting thing is she can go back and forth between the two worlds. So, what would you do if you had that power? And you're a high school graduate, but you failed your college exam because your entire family, died, and pre episode 1. So the shock of it and everything, you failed everything, so you still need to live. What would you do? And she hits upon it exactly that she will take cheap, everyday available goods at the dollar store and sell it over in the isekai world, where no one has seen these products. So that's what she does, but then shenanigans happen, and she gets involved more and more with what's happening at the kingdom level, and eventually ends up hiring a PFC to come to the kingdom's rescue. So there you have it. It's interesting enough. Animation was decent enough. I was interested to see what the studio would do with the adaptation. So I read the manga, not the light novel. There are definite differences between the manga and the anime, and for the better, I thought. They added some scenes, they moved things around a bit, and skipped over some things. So overall, I think the storytelling was better. The CG was, for some things, were still not great. It's mid. And so the series ended up being fine, but it's not something that I'm going to recommend. And there are plenty of materials for season 2, but if there is, I'm not going to watch it because I've already seen it and it's okay, but not great.
Does she ever get to use her QCQ that you've learned? Or CQC?
No, she's not hand to hand, but she does use her guns quite a bit later on. So
Ooh.
and crossbows, and she is very very practical and pragmatic. And she realizes, that she adapts to the rules of that world and does not take prisoners if she doesn't have to. So there you go. That was a little refreshing to see.
I was starting to get into this show, especially after when she met that one family and how manipulative she is.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was really fun character. But once it got to the whole dinner thing, my emotions kind of fell, and I was like, I don't know about the rest of this. I might as well just put this back and finish other stuff because it doesn't seem like it's going to go back to its interesting her being her, manipulative side again. More of her just shocking people with what she brings over. But
It kind of is, but then again, she's not the only one who's manipulating per se. She also gets manipulated a lot by the princess of all people. So I think overall that kind of equals out. That's how I was think. That she's not the only one who's taking advantage of this world, and there's also equally scheming people who's taking advantage of her needing to be rescued every now and then. And towards the end of the series, I like that how they expanded the scene where she's trying to recruit the PBC guys to come to the other world to join the battle. I believe in manga it was pretty much like she just traveled over to the head honcho, just asking, okay, I'll pay you this much. Could you come and help me? Okay, come over and they'll do shoot and do the battle and take out a couple of the dragons along the way. But here, I think it expands into the full 2 episode. First, he's reluctant. She brings him over to try to give a rundown. Then they go into that little mini crisis to saving people. Then he comes to the mutual agreements to bring all those guys in and do the battle. So, but those things are pretty done more realistic way than what was shown in manga.
All right. Is there anything else about this show, or go to the
Next.
next? Next up is a show that I actually really enjoyed. Saikyo Omyoji no Isekai Tenseiki. And so of course in Isekai, great in the name. But this is from an Omyoji, very powerful one back in his world where he was, I think, the strongest. And he was dealt with because he became too strong and hence became a threat, right? So he was disposed of because of his potential to be a threat to whatever kingdom or whatever it was that he was with. And now he's in this new life and he decides, I'm going to try to live more down low and also find someone that I can have take all the fame and ride with them in the sidelines so that way I'm not in the spotlight. And that kind of falls apart a little bit near the end. But overall, the show follows the main character Seika, and he surprised me a lot because I guess because of how old he was and how he thinks and how he lived, he is very, very ruthless in all of his decisions. He doesn't bat an eye to killing people. He doesn't bat an eye to making others suffer or using others to get his means. And even one of the followers that you can tell has a very high affection rate for him. He doesn't see her as anything other than, a side piece or something that he'll use to help achieve his goals. So it does have this kind of like almost harem theme, but very different from it. Rather than being ignorant, I would say, to everything, it's more or less he doesn't see them as any potentials love interests. He just sees them all as things that he should be able to use and to further his goals, to stay hidden, and also to accomplish this peaceful life that he wishes for. And because of that, there's some really, really dark moments to this kid, and it's really, really fun to see those moments shine. So, like in your typical isekai with this type of character, I would think, where you would see him, you know, confront the enemy, give them that warning, and then let him off with like a slap in the hand, or maybe turn him into the country, right, to go to jail. So he just outright slaughters them and then hides it all so that no one knows that anything happened and that he was ever involved. So it I really loved that, and it was just very interesting to see that. What do you think, Vinny?
Really don't have much thing to add other than yeah, he's brutally rational in terms of achieving his goal, that he's hell bent on not making that same mistake that he did. Although towards the end, his favorite Ayakashi Yuki, the little fox-looking creature, warns him that he is walking towards that very same path that he swore up on it. So if there will be season 2, it'll be interesting to see that if he's going to keep going through that path and just destroy everything on his path as the princess predicted, or is he going to take a different turn just to surprise us? Which I doubt it, but it'll be interesting if he does.
Yeah, if anything, I think if anything, I want to show just one scene to some people. Like even if Jessica just watch it, which is when he does the beast, when he captures that guy to get him for information, to show how shocking the show can be. But other than that, I think it was just overall, it was entertaining and decent, and I had no problems with it. It wasn't anything that was stand out. So as far as animation went, I never really expected much, but I never really saw any dips into its animation or any problems with what was going on. I don't think I even complained or had any opinion on the dragon. Did they actually animate the dragon, or was that CG? I can't even remember.
CG.
Yeah, you see, that's how little the animation mattered in the show, but I think everything else kind of made up for it. It was very entertaining and fun. Was it bad to you, Vinny? Because my eyes are clouded over.
Uh, it was fine. I mean, it's nothing great, but it could be worse. So
All right. But yeah, let's go to the next title, which, you know, that one show, By the Grace of the Gods. That show, that guy's happy feelings, that whole, um, everything is nice. Need to lend some of that feelings to this girl here in Sugar Apple Fairy Tale.
oh god, oh man.
Poor On. Who wants to take this?
I guess I'll start. Part of me devil wants to see this becoming a season 2, especially if they're going to torture the girl the way they have done it to her. It's almost like how much more pain can she deal with? And seemingly it just does not end between that scumbag of neighboring love romantic interest that turned into conniving thief that not only steals her work but then tried to frame her for pretty much everything. Then all the other challenges that comes along the way, between the Duke who makes the unreasonable demands to the crop shortage forcing her to come to the workshop, and all the workshop hates her guts because she's a girl who does not belong in this industry, yada yada yada. And then last nail on the coffin is that in order to secure her rights to participate in this festival where her rival has warned that this will be her first and only shot to get the medal that she's seeking out for. And in order to do that, the fairy who befriended her and pretty much the only person that the fairy ever actually put any trust in decided to give up his freedom to secure that stock that she needed in order to succeed in her goal. So it ends in a tragedy where he gets pulled away from her. She realized what was happening, but it was too late to fix anything, and then series ends. And that was very unsettling ways to end it. There's no closure. It's almost like a bitter victory, if you could even call that. I mean, she secured the medal that she wanted all along, but then she lost her dear friends, and then what? I mean, it's like, okay, I got trophy out of it, but I lost the friends that I liked very much. So, is that even worth a fair trade at this point? Probably not. And then that the opening song is ever so cheery, which is very unreasonable to listen to after a while, because every episode is like we're kind of wondering, okay, which way is she gonna get screwed over this time? Which character is going to stab her in the back? And that's the uneasy feeling that we had when we were watching it, pretty much week by week.
Yeah. I mean, it seemed like every single good moment that could have happened for her also came with or was followed by tragedy. And it just, I mean, even at one point I was like, come on, give her a break, even though I love that stuff. And because of that show, it also made me doubt everyone's intentions that ever got close to her. Like, even at one point I was calling this new guy that showed up Jonas 2.0 because of how he looked. I was like, oh no, don't fall for it, man. But
Yeah, I mean, thankfully he turned out to be okay, but that was exception more than a norm.
yeah, I mean, just don't know. It was a wonderful show, I think, and I definitely want to see more because I want to see how continues, like how is she going to deal with this, and how she, I don't know. There's got to be a way to. I kind of want her to have a happy ending.
I think she deserved to have a happy ending, but it's not making it any easier. And at this point, is it even possible? I mean, how is she going to have a safe travel now that her friends are gone?
Well, she still has uh,
That little one doesn't count for anything.
mithril something.
Yeah,
Something.
Mithril part. Yeah, he's not good for fighting. And that road that she's traveling back and forth is supposed to be fraught with all the danger. That's the reason why she went out of her way to find the warrior fairy in the first place.
All right. What about your guys' opinions? You guys watch it or? Oh yeah, everyone watched
Mm-hmm.
it. What did you all think?
I liked it. It was cute and fun and sweet. That ending though, I definitely want a sequel series. I'm gonna have to call BS on the I didn't realize my world was sexist that happened in the last 3/4 of the series. Because honey, you should have known earlier. That was a little just, where's this coming? But no, it was really cute. I like the character designs, and I looked forward to it every week.
Have you read any of the light novels?
I
or the
have
manga?
not.
Yeah.
Are
That was
they
my
any good?
question. I don't know. I believe it's concluded because the last publication was 2015. There's 17 light novel volumes out. I have no idea how much of it they covered.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing there's usually a season like this for a light novel will cover somewhere around 3 to 5, maybe 6. I don't know. It depends. So I think there's still plenty of material, and I believe a season 2 was announced. I might be off about that.
Oh, I
So
hope so.
yeah, I certainly hope so because you're invested, and then the season ends on kind of a cliffhanger,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So
No, it's really
uh,
a cliffhanger.
and a lot of heartbreak in there. So uh, yeah, well, it is very shoujo, and I I don't know. This reminds me of many a series I used to read at my cousin's JoJo comics that I would pick up and occasionally read when I was visiting. And yeah, it's a lot of the story beats I can see. Also, the entirety of yet again the world premise, right? The religion that they teach you is completely a lie,
Mm-hmm.
which is revealed at like episode 11. So it's and because she was her mother, she was and only had her mom, right? Single mother raising her, traveling sugar confectioner. She didn't have all the proper religious studies that someone that was in town would get if you were there all the time and had to go to church and all that. So that kind of backstory that suddenly springs upon you late in the entire series was a little surprising, but at least in story it made sense. So I'm sure there are other surprising things that will show up in season 2, but she's in a pickle. She is in a pickle, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how she's going to, you know, uh, come back out of this and try to recover Shao. So we will see. But yeah, it's something this show is something I would recommend to people who want something more than just the same old, same old. I mean, if you're just wanting isekai trash, then this is not the show for you. But you want a little bit of character development, a little bit more drama, a little romance, character growth, all of that. It's a good show, so I would
Mm-hmm.
recommend it.
I would also add that if you're the type of person that likes the Atelier series of video games that are all about alchemy and stuff, this would be totally your jam. It feels very much like that, and Anne's character design especially, I feel like she harkens to those games, that series of games.
So I showed this to a few of them when we were watching this show. That on YouTube you can actually find some videos of people actually making sugar figures,
Oh
like
wow.
little fish and little dogs and stuff, where they put them on a stick and then right in front of them they sculpt them, paint them, and then give them out for people to eat. So it's an actual thing, and it's really fun. I've watched them before a long time ago, and kind of remembered it as I was watching this. And I showed it to a few of my friends. So it's really fun to actually see some of these things and know that it is not practical to their point, but there are some stuff you can do out there or see out there that this is out there.
But the candy making you're talking about, I think, is different than what's depicted here.
Yes, very different, but
More. Yeah, I know because that's it's called bekkozaiku, right? But that is more akin to like making a glass glass blowing, making sculptures out of that. The way you make that is similar. You have essentially molten sugar, and you're pinching in and pushing it in shape. Here, it's more like, not sure. They don't show you the crucial step, but you see them, the sugar masters, rolling things out like marzipan almost, and sculpting it. So it's a little bit different, but yeah, if you get to see sugar candy making, it is fascinating. The true masters are just amazing.
So, you said there was light novels. Are they translated or are they still only Japanese only?
I believe the Yen Press is releasing them. They have plans to release them anyway at some point in the future.
I'm gonna have to ask that question at the convention if I can sit in their panel. They have one.
Yeah.
This is licensed in North America by Yen Press. We'll find out.
Awesome.
The only thing I hate about them sometimes is like when I go to their booth and ask them the question, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna have to go to the website," because they're just there to work that convention. They don't know their actual inventory sometimes, I think. Or maybe it was just the person I talked to.
So
First
the
3 volume
manga
came out already.
Yeah, the manga's already out as well.
We're gonna have to check those out then. Next up is the show that went for another show didn't go. Where is it there? Tensei Ojo to Tensai Reijo no Maho Kakume. The magical revolution of a reincarnated princess and the genius young lady. So, the Yuri is high in this one.
It is very high.
I made a comment. I think, a joke that this show went where people from Rikuru Surikoyo wished it would have gone.
Yeah, I see that.
So, I think overall it was really decent. I kind of have mixed feelings about her brother and how I feel about the whole story, but I don't know. What do you get? How did you guys feel?
Same.
Okay, so I only watched I just watched the first 5 episodes, so since I don't know the whole picture, this was just my take, that I sort of understood where he was coming from. Because for all intents and purposes, she just kind of goofed off, and he has to now pick up the slack and be what she couldn't be while she's running around out there and having fun. He is a dick about it, yeah, but I kind of get it. Does he turn turbo evil later on in the series?
Spoiler: yes and
Yes.
no. They both have their own reasons for behaving the way they do, and so another case of not communicating correctly, and it's kind of sad the way the story was told about how they got to that point. So, I could tell you about it later in detail if you're not going to watch it. But
Okay.
overall, I felt like the story was really choppy. There were these small arcs that happened, but it didn't have a good overall flow. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it every week, but this ended up being, Tensei, reincarnated princess. It's isekai in name only. Right? because none of that
Mhm.
comes in. She just has a vague recollection of seeing an airplane and wishing she could fly, and realizing I have no magic. I'm in a royal family that is magically based, and I have no magic. Right?
And
So I
I
get that.
really wish they had just not even bothered with the isekai point.
Yeah, I think it's just shoehorned. And then
Mhm.
the Yuffie, who is the Duke? Is that what her dad is? Anyway, the she's a young lady, and in the title right there it says the magical revolution, and yes, the magical revolution happens after the fact of the series. So that was a little disappointing. I was hoping. I've read the manga up to a point, but manga only goes up to about episode 5 or 6 of this the anime. So everything else was a surprise to me, and I thought that Yuffie and Annis would come up with things like Yuffie is supposed to be Annis's assistant and is supposed to be bringing all these magical inventions to the people, and so she can take credit, but also to enact change in their society. But none of that actually happens. That happens after the series, apparently. So I was disappointed in that. But the relationship that they have ends up being really cute. So I'll forgive him for that. But I think it's rated somewhere in the high sevens at like Mal, and I can't really give it that high of a score. But I would still recommend it as a fun fantasy adventure, not an isekai.
Mm-hmm.
You guys finished Benny and Jack?
Yeah. Um, Pretty much what you said is that titles are misleading. The revolution really doesn't happen until the series is pretty much all but over. Was still annoyed about the okay, if you're going to throw the isekai in there somewhere, why doesn't it show up until very last minute of it? And that Yuri's moment towards the end seemingly came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't entirely sure if that was necessary. It's almost like they're compensating for something that was lacking. I liked that at the beginning, then it kind of became very tepid towards the end to me.
I felt also that it was kind of missing a lot of information, a lot of things that happened near the end as well. Like, I right when she got that dragon and used and did what she did, I thought that would play more into later on, but it only like really came up once, if anything, right, or twice. And I thought that would be
Twice.
a
Yeah.
a bigger thing because it was like her biggest goal, and but it kind of fell from there. So I felt like maybe we're missing a whole arc in between, maybe. But since they wanted to finish this in one episode, they kind of moved some things around or just cut out a lot of things. But I do see that it's
That
light.
might be possible.
I do see that it's light novel, so I'm probably going to see if I can find it and see if it differs or if there's a lot more. Because like I think the back half was missing a lot of information or a lot of things to also up that thing. And I don't know if anyone else noticed. I kind of noticed this slightly, but if you guys watched the ending credits, in the last few episodes, the ending
Uh,
actually changed a little.
oh, really? Okay. Did
Hmm.
not watch it.
Yeah, because like at the very end, it shows the two characters colored, and then they walk behind this tree. But once it becomes the conflict with Ines and her feelings and stuff, you'll see her. She's no longer colored, and she stands while the other girl walks to the tree, and she stays. So they have this little thing where it shows they're no longer in sync or they're no longer moving together, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I'm just glad that it moved away from that seizure-inducing flashback ending credit at the very early episodes.
Don't remember the. Actually, I don't remember the OP either. There you go.
Okay, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah,
Oh,
did
this
not watch
show.
it. You guys talk about it.
This
Oh,
show.
you're missing out.
This show threw me off every time I would watch it because I lent my account to my friend. So every time we would start playing it, it would be in English. And I was like, wait, what? No.
Oh, no, no.
So I had to go change it back to Japanese. Like, oh, okay, everything's back.
Oh, phew. I don't know about you guys, but this show never failed to make me laugh out loud. It's just, oh, it was so damn funny.
I do feel that they use the flashbacks too much, always showing us the same scenes over and over again. A little too much. But, like, I swear they told their childhood like 3 to 4 different times.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't pick up on that because I would usually watch a couple episodes, maybe 2 or 3 back to back to back. But it could be that I forgot since I was watching a set and then waiting 2 weeks and then watching another set. Maybe I forgot to take that into account. But no, I really liked how sweet this was and just how real the characters were. Is that I feel like they're pretty average teenagers, maybe. I mean, I could be completely wrong though. But the one interaction that was probably my favorite in the whole series was when the girls are teasing Jun-kun and he takes Carol's headband and I think what's her face's scrunchie and he puts them on top of the sign. So they can't reach them because they're too short. I just thought that was the best way he could have handled that whole situation.
Oh man, Carol, she's a hoot in this show. She's really funny. And as far as realistic teenagers, I don't think she is one, but
No. No. No, but I mean, Tomo and June, I thought were very genuine.
Yeah. What was the other girl's name? The
Oh, I don't know.
Misuzu.
She was my favorite character too.
Misuzu?
Misuzu. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
She was wonderful. I mean,
Oh.
oh my god, that moment when she smiled. Ah.
Oh, she's great. She's great.
And then with her interaction with Carol was really funny as well. Just
Mm-hmm.
they always had really good fun, and it was very interesting as far as rom-coms for high school because we've seen plenty of them out there.
Oh, sure.
But this one was at least very entertaining and kept us in to what was going on. It was more geared towards the comedy than the drama, I would say. So
Yes.
it's a lot easier to stick with it. Not like
Yeah.
the other one that came out. What was it? My senpai's an angel or whatever. My next door neighbor angel.
Oh, I don't remember. No,
Oh,
I liked this because it didn't take itself too seriously. It was, but it was also sort of tender and sweet at certain points, but not so much that it was saccharine. And one of the things I really liked about it was when Tomo asks for help on, becoming not necessarily more feminine, but to try and get June to notice her. And the girls try and put together a little makeover. Is that Misuzu and Carol are talking about, they're going in a store and they're talking about what they could buy for Tomo. And Carol picks out something really girly. And Misuzu says, no, that won't work because if she's not comfortable in what she's wearing, she's going to be just all, nervous and whatnot, and that's going to come across. So they were helping her, but also taking her preferences into consideration. And usually if there's a makeover scene in an anime or even in an American TV show, it's not like that. It's how do we make you attractive to the guy? What is the guy like? But here it was, what is Tomo like? What would help Tomo glow up, but also still be Tomo? And I really like that about the series.
Yeah, and even though it had a lot of moments where I thought it would be somewhat cringy,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really go that far. Or
No, it knew when to pull its punches.
yeah,
And it knew what the line was, and it never put a toe across it. I also really like the scene where the oh gosh, the guy that has a crush on Carol, when he thinks that bad things happen to Carol and he just unlocks beast mode.
her cousin, right? I think it is.
Yeah, cousins kissing cousins. Ugh. But that was really funny.
I also like the other one moment that made me laugh like no other when Nisuzu confronts June and asks her like if she was her first love. He's like,
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
nope.
And then she's all, let's get this straight. I dumped you. I was never dumped. I have my pride. Oh my gosh, she's the best.
Oh man, that whole story when she was like in her mind, I'm gonna get rid of this guy.
One blemish in her life.
This show is the one that I would definitely purchase. And if I'm ever having a bad day, I'm gonna pop in the disc and I'm gonna watch Tomo-chan as a girl. Because it was just that fun and that joyful of a show to watch. And I kind of want to read the manga now. Have either of you read the manga?
No.
Yep.
Is it good? Is it same caliber as the show?
Manga is pretty much what you saw at the anime. So I was surprised at how well they translate into anime. To be honest with
Okay.
you.
I will say this though. I was surprised with how well I was able to take Tomo-chan yelling, because
Mm.
she screamed a lot, and it kind of almost made me think a little bit of Ashita from that Black, whatever you call that show.
Oh, Black Clover.
Yeah, where he's always constantly yelling or very loud. And Tomo-chan was kind of like that, but it never came off as strong, where I was kind of annoyed.
No. Now that you mention it, I never really thought, oh my gosh, she's yelling again, or I was never irritated by it. It was her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was her character.
Yeah.
Oh, and the other thing I have to mention is the in-character ending song that changes to June, and June has an in-character ending song. Oh my gosh, was that not too perfect?
Albert,
That
I
was
recommend this
awesome.
for you.
All right, I'll keep it in mind on my huge backlog.
As far as comedy goes, if you just want something,
Light, fluffy, to chase the blues away.
as they say in some anime, just imagine we tricked you. Next up, I kind of want to move ahead just in case for Jessica. We'll go
Oh,
to
thank
Trigun,
you.
'cause that's your last title, right?
Yeah, that's my last one.
So
Oh, guys.
Trigun.
Oh, where to even begin with this? Okay. So one question that I found myself asking myself and my poor husband, who was on the end of many Trigun related rants, was why? Why this show? Trigun is a classic, yes, but it had a pretty good budget. It's a decent show, and there wasn't anything that I think a modern interpretation could necessarily do better. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, why this? Why not an anime that was made in the 90s that never really became popular or had a shoestring budget like Violinist of Hamelin. Why not something like that, remake it for a new audience? But instead they chose Trigun. So my question is, all right, is this a reboot or a prequel or a remake? What is it? And the answer is it's all three, which is really surprising. The other thing I found myself saying was, this makes no sense. Over and over and over, this makes no sense. Because at first watching it, you think, okay, this is just a reimagining of the thing. Because things are kind of slightly out of order. They'll have an episode that, oh yeah, I remember that episode, but they'll take a new spin on it, and I'm fine with that. I'm not opposed to changing things up in that regard. And then they added in a couple of new things, like the worms faction, that are basically these sentient insect-like creatures. So you have the humans, the plants, and then the worms. But the worms don't matter, guys, because they, except for the one episode that they show up and they're the antagonists for that one episode, they never come back again. I mean, the character will show up and say something cryptic and creepy and then leave, but they don't matter. Nothing, the worms have nothing to do with anything at the end of the day. So they were completely underused in this. The other thing is, I think that the anime relied way too much on a person's knowledge of the original, which isn't good when you're going to change it this much, because the fans of the original are going to be pissed that you're changing anything, and the newcomers to Trigun are going to wonder what the heck is going on. And it's really funny that they did this, because the Crunchyroll description is, Vash the Stampede, a joyful gunslinger. Friends, there is no joy in this Vash. I don't know how far you guys got into it, but his character is not what the original was, where he was just sort of a dweeb and a goober to the point where Meryl and Millie didn't even think he was Vash the Stampede because he was just happy-go-lucky, joyful kind of thing. That's not this guy. But perhaps the worst cardinal sin of all is they did not have Millie, best girl. Those bastards! She's not in this show. Instead, we have reporter senpai, who is Meryl's senpai, and Meryl's not an insurance agent. She's a reporter, which doesn't make sense. Because, okay, if you remember in the original Trigun, Meryl and Millie were constantly having to call back the office and say, we're really sorry, things got out of control. And so there was that grounding their job to the world of the show to make it consistent. Here, she's a reporter. They never talk about the newspaper. There's never any other tertiary characters reading a newspaper or talking about getting their news from any source. Meryl never writes an article. Senpai never writes an article. Yeah, I could go on for probably a half an hour, but I don't know if I want to subject you guys to that.
It seemed like that senpai guy was just there for exposition, right? Like, he was always giving us these info dumps of stuff, like why certain things were happening. I think that's why they even had him, because I thought every single time it's like, why is this happening? He's like, well, this and this, or the reason this is happening is because of, he had all this information because of his age and how long he's been around, which I thought kind of destroyed a lot of the mystery and stuff that might have been.
Right, because in the original they're kind of going along and Vash knows all of the secrets, but Meryl and Millie are trying to figure them out alongside of the audience, and that's what keeps us engaged. And in this, the character work is not present. I could not tell you a single thing about Reporter Senpai at all, about his personality, likes and dislikes, where he came from, backstory, what his hopes and dreams were, nothing. And it's the same for all of the characters. I couldn't tell you that about Meryl. I couldn't tell you about Wolfwood. And I think Wolfwood, the way they portray him in this show, is a microcosm of the issues that are plaguing it. Because if you remember in the original, Wolfwood had the big-ass cross, and he was a priest. And so a lot of the imagery and stuff surrounding Wolfwood tied into that backstory of him being a priest, he having that very strict code that he adhered to, and whatnot. In here, Wolfwood has the cross gun, and that's about as deep as it goes.
So wait, are you telling me they didn't have the chapel box where you put on their head to hear their confessions?
Nope. Nope, because Wolfwood is not a priest. He's a 6-year-old boy that underwent experimentation to, Hulk him all out. And he carries the cross gun, which is in the shape of a cross because the original was in the shape of a cross, and not because of anything to do with his character or his character's affiliations. And everything about the story is like that. So you learn that humanity is using plants, which we thought, or at least my husband and I thought, were sentient beings, that the humans are using them as fuel. And Knives is understandably pissed off about this. And in fact, that's kind of where I was too, is just, no, you can't do this to sentient beings. But then in episode 11, Knives is all, I'm going to make every plant here a sentient entity. We're going to give birth to plants as a race and kill all humans so that there are only plants. And I'm just, but wait a minute, why are you upset? If the plants are just plants, why does any of this even matter? But I guess I'll get to the ending so that we're not here all day. But by the time the show ends, Vosh has killed Knives and has lost his memory of everything. Meryl is now working for an insurance company because that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of implied that this series, Trigun Stampede, was a prequel to the original Trigun. Which again makes no sense if Meryl had been on this adventure with Vash in the first place. It's just, what? Why on earth did they do that? Oh, and another artifact from the original is that Wolfwood calls Vash Needle Noggin, even though his character design does not have the spiky hair. So it's just, where the heck is this coming from? And that's what I mean, is that they do things, they're using the old show to fill in the blanks, which doesn't make sense because this is a prequel to the old show, which also doesn't make sense because the characters should know each other.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I would say the biggest the downfall for this show for me was that they took away all of the zaniness, and that's what made it very enjoyable. Was just you're expecting crazy stuff to happen, and crazy stuff did happen in a way that you couldn't imagine. And in this show, while crazy stuff does happen, it's more dark than it is lighthearted comedy, and it just isn't as amusing, I think.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is almost the fan fiction equivalent of the original Trigun that someone would write when they were 14, where, oh, I love Trigun, but it would be awesome if Vash was edgier. Let's get some edge in here and suck out all of the joy. Because the original Trigun does go to some dark places, to be sure. But it counterbalances that with the humor and the characters that you know and you love. In here, I don't know the characters, therefore I cannot love them, because who are they really? And so when all of the dark stuff happens, it's hard to have any emotional reaction to it other than I possess a basic empathy for my fellow man. And so when I see a generic person number 4 get shot, it's all, oh, that kind of sucks. but we're moving on now. Yeah. I will say that some of the new character designs were pretty good, though. I loved the new character design for Rem. I thought Meryl, even though it was a completely impractical outfit given the desert, her character's design was pretty cute. Vash, I don't know. There were some times where I like this except for the glasses. And then other times where I'm all, oh my gosh, he's just so Gen Z. I can't handle it. Yeah, so the real screwball comedy is completely absent, and instead you get to see kids getting murdered and all kinds of dark stuff. Ugh. So anyway, do you guys have any questions for me? Things you want to know about?
So did it actually just end?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's even shorter, right? Because I think the first one was 2 core.
Yeah, it's 12 episodes, and the series ended with the destruction of July City. So if you remember in the first anime, July had already been destroyed, and people would refer to the tragedy of July. That's why I think this is supposed to be a prequel.
Man, that just makes a lot of things still not make sense. Because, like, didn't they
No.
even fight that people who escaped from jail like they did in the same set?
Yes. Yes, they do. They fight the Nebraska family. Legato Blue Summers shows up. They fight him too. The Sand Steamer, do you remember that 2-parter in the original where they're on this huge ass steam thing going across the desert with the electric boogaloo guys?
Made me think of like Star Wars, right? That whole
they do that. They have that again, and that's why I'm saying it doesn't make any sense that it's a prequel, because they're reusing the story beats from the original. And then Meryl knows who Vash is. Vash won't know who Vash is because he's got amnesia now. And they did put in sequel bait too, which I'm not going to watch the sequel. I like you guys. I don't like you enough to watch another 12 episodes of whatever the hell this was, though.
Well, let's move on to the next show. We gotta let Jessica calm down.
Yeah, shut me down before I go full nuclear.
That was one of the strongest reaction from Jess.
But
We went atomic.
this other show though, you should definitely watch, Jessica. I see it's not on your list.
Which one is that?
The Tondemo Skill de Isekai Horu Meshi.
I hear the word isekai and I'm sus. I'm saying sus.
Campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skills. So this is a nice slice of life that centers around I would say cooking rather than adventuring. But I'll let Albert, I think, the biggest fan of this, right?
Well, I watched it and I've not read the light novel. Don't intend to. Basically, I think we covered this in the preview when we had previews, but Mukoda is summoned to another world along with the heroes, but because he's a salaryman and has come across a lot of BS, he recognizes that this kingdom is actually doing well. At least the nobility are. They're not in any imminent danger, and all of the go fight the demon lord's army sounds too shady for him, and he doesn't have a lot of skills. So the only thing he's gifted with, as coming from another world, is he has online. I think it's called online shopping in English, but no one knows what it is. He doesn't know what it is, so he gets out of the entire training and fighting the demon lord, and he just takes off. He's like, just give me some gold and I'm out of here. And he gets out of there, but he finds out what his skill is. It allows him to go to Amazon equivalent net online shopping site, and he can order groceries. So what would you do with that? As you would in the other isekai I mentioned, you would buy stuff cheap and sell it for high to make your living. But he becomes part of the Merchants Guild, and he becomes part of the Adventurers Guild because it's convenient for hiring purposes and all that. And he just starts moving out of the first adventure is moving out of town, but then a legendary creature, a Fenrir, smells his meal and is like, "Feed me." And because the food is so fantastic, the Fenrir, out of the grace of his goodness, says, "I'll be your familiar," and that's how the adventure starts. So he just has all these wacky slice of life cooking with all kinds of ingredients and using the spices and the ready-made sauces that he can buy from his online shopping skill, and cooks up great meals and goes from town to town and adventure to adventure with his familiars. So it's more slice of life than anything. And it's more absurd than anything because, yet again, due to that one power, everyone is interested in him. He doesn't want the interest, but when the goddesses take interest in him, he can't say no because they're goddesses. So they're like, well, we'll give you this if you give me some of the food from the other world. All right. So it's just rinse and repeat. It's just very light-hearted slice of life adventure. But the food looks fantastic.
I put a link in the thing for Jessica to look. It shows you how the food looks. They have a TikTok page where they show you side by side comparisons between the Wheel of Food and
Oh,
the
that's
animation.
cool.
And it's really amazing what they've done there. And very
So don't watch it
scientific.
on an empty stomach, is what you're telling me.
No, do not watch it on that.
Oh, it does look really cute. I like the big old doggo in the
He'll
GIF
tell you
you
he's
sent.
not a dog.
Oh, well, pardon me, sir.
There's a whole episode about, Fenrir getting bathed, and he's swearing that he's not a dog because he's keep using the dog grooming items to wash him down.
Well, to be fair, dogs think that they're humans.
True, but this
I
one
mean-
talks, so.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it has a proper license to use the food item with each name proper, not one off brand. I think we saw one time the bottle of a Pepsi. We're like, what? There's a Pepsi.
I think they're part of the sponsors of the
Mhm.
show.
Yeah, and which is pretty unusual because in the world of McDonald and all that, you seldom ever see proper sponsorships on food items, but this one is pretty much chock full of them. So in that way, I'm so glad to see that. Maybe you can actually make those foods if you use that actual ingredient you can buy from the supermarket.
Not surprisingly, I think it's Pepsi.
Hmm?
It's with the same company that did Doritos. So
Yeah.
Doritos has been in Evangelion. So they have been out advertising the anime before. But yeah, I was surprised to see that as well. I was kind of at first I was like, wait, am I seeing things correctly or is that just a fake thing? Until it actually spelled it out on the side. But we didn't have that Dr. Pip or whatever you want to call that other stuff that they tend to change the names. But other than that, this show also at the end of this episodes had small little shorts that were also really fun to watch, and it mostly involved with the scenes with the goddess. But then you had a few with the vendor and also the adventures that he was with before. So
Yeah, that was early on.
yeah, so they got to tie in like some side little things that may have happened that they didn't put into the story, which I thought was really nice.
Glad to see that the other three heroes, because you don't see them right after the very beginning of the first episode, and I was wondering about what are they doing nowadays? But the little skit that threw them in there, I was excited to see that.
And of course, their food.
Yeah, the food.
But yeah, I recently went back and started reading a little bit of the manga to see how far they are, and I think this show might probably have. Do you guys know if it has a season 2 lined up, or do you think it'll probably take a whole year for more content to come out?
Probably take a year, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't seen any announcements like the other shows. So.
Because I know the manga is not too much further, I
Yeah.
believe. But
No, there's plenty more. This goes to the beginning of volume 6. There's 11 volumes out.
oh, maybe I wasn't as caught up as I thought. But
Yeah.
Well, this is in Japanese, so
I think it's a license up to volume 8 in US, and story goes quite a bit more. So yeah, I think probably within a year or so, if they decide to go for it, they could probably start working on season 2 by then.
it does make me wonder, like, how far they are in the light novel. I guess it is based off of light novel, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't read the light novel, so.
But this show is just really enjoyable every week. I don't know why it took me so long to realize that the Beth Coons, whatever his voice actor was, Momonga from Overlord.
Fell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, one of my favorite parts were, most of them were Sui. Just her little noises that she made all the time. Just really cute. I think I would tame a slime just if it was that cute as well.
Remember, you have to capture the baby slime.
Yeah.
I like all those fuzzes that goddesses throw over all the sweets and stuff. It's like so greedy.
But other than that, do you guys have anything else to mention about this? Because I think this is, I don't know if people are watching or not, but I would think it would be ranked high. Do you guys know if it's highly ranked or if it's sitting somewhere lower?
The Tom demo? I don't know. I think it's reviewed highly. I just don't know if it gained enough attraction from the viewers, though, because it's not one of those battle happy stuff. So
Okay, I'm looking on the
it's
map.
got a live chart is 8.06, pretty high. Now it's probably around 7.9, I'm guessing.
It's a 7.7.
7. It's kind of low. Okay. Well, if maybe people who saw Isekai and was expecting some battle action, the OP main character, this is much more slice of life. So, matter of expectations.
Mm-hmm. So, I do have to say that the ending animation and how they showed everything was really fun. Very different from how the animation was, which I thought was still really cool looking. And I always enjoyed watching it. I don't know why. There's just something about it that kind of gave this manga feel, even though that's not how the manga was. But it was very unique in the character designs for that ending. Kind of like made me think of like a Monogatari, how they had that particular designs for the characters at the ending credits.
Oh, by Wolfham, yeah.
So
it's like having its own little storybook at the end.
But other than that, are there any other titles you guys definitely wanted to talk about? 'Cause we only have like 3 more, right?
No, I mean, I think I've talked about all the ones I.
But did you want to cover Vinland Saga or?
Watch it. So the funny thing is, I realized that I actually never finished season one. So I need to go back, but I just started watching season two because I already knew season two is the farm arc, right? So like I could just start watching it here, and it's really good. It is really good, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it each week. And um, there's 12 more. I think there's 12 more episodes. It's a 24 episode run. It'll just continue, but the first 12 episodes has been just fantastic. It is very different, obviously, from season one, but it's still really, really good.
All right.
Well, out of everything that I watched this season, this Vinland Saga season two, the first part has the highest ranking for me. Highest point, whatever.
I might have to check it out. Like, I don't know. What would you compare it to?
It's I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to because it's kind of its own thing. It's just really well done story. Yeah, nothing's coming to mind that direct comparison.
I'm going to have to check it out then. I think I saw maybe the first episode. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll probably find a group of people and we can all check it out. The other
Yeah.
the other title, which I think Vinny watched, is this one, which is the Tsundere with Endo-kun and Kobayashi-san doing the commentary, right?
Yeah.
How did that end up?
It ends up, super duper happy ending. More or less predicted. It's just another your run on the mill ultimate game turning into the state sim isekai ish kind of thing. It's not really worth mentioning it at this point.
So, do they only communicate with the prince, or do they eventually like communicate with different characters at different times, depending on the
It
situation?
expands to more characters. Later on, they ended up being able to communicate with the goddesses. The main goddess that was also always been mentioned in the folklore, who somehow turned into this evil witch along the way, and then they at the last episode they get to communicate with Liselot herself,
Hmm.
and they kind of got isekai into the game world for a brief moment to make a proper ending.
All right. So, I think wow, we've been live for a long time. I didn't realize how long we've gone.
Yeah.
Time is just fly by when we're having fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll be it for today. The only thing we have to announce, I think, right when we probably going about to start our new talk, Suzume should be out right on the 14th of this month.
Yeah. Some theaters are opening on 13th, a Thursday, but most places should be open on Friday, 14th.
So we got that gem to watch, and of course, this new season's packed full of a lot of titles that I think are already being spoiled on Twitter. I saw something, I was like, "Oh no, close, close!" But hopefully, I don't get too spoiled. I'm gonna try to watch some stuff this weekend. It's gonna be long nights.
You watch TikTok, you have no chance at avoiding spoiler.
But yeah, I'd like to thank Jessica. Jessica, thank you for hanging out with us. Vinny and Albert, of course, here with us to talk about anime every single season for the last what 9, 10 years. So being able to keep up with me, I'd like to thank you guys. It's been really fun to have these times to chat with you all and to learn so much more about anime as we go through.
Oof.
Yeah, but other than that, I think I don't know. I think it's probably Dragon that's still watching. if you're still there, Dragon, thank you for hanging out with us, and I guess we'll say bye to everyone. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I